The summer sun cast long shadows as it dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple. A gentle breeze rustled through the trees, carrying with it the faint scent of flowers and earth. In the small town of Harrowville, a group of friends roamed the neighborhood, seeking adventure and a respite from the mundanity of their summer break. There was Michael, the de facto leader with a keen sense of curiosity. Emma, his cautious but loyal cousin. Tim, the joker with an infectious laugh. And Lily, the quiet observer with a knack for noticing the unusual. Together they wandered the streets, their eyes peeled for anything that might spark their interest. It was Tim who first noticed the hidden path. "Hey guys, check this out," he called, pointing to a narrow trail obscured by overgrown bushes and tangled vines. Michael pushed aside the foliage, revealing a dirt path that led into a dense thicket. "Looks like it hasn't been used in years," he remarked, a spark of excitement in his eyes. "Want to see where it goes?" Emma hesitated. "Are you sure that's a good idea? It looks pretty creepy." "Come on, Emma," Tim said with a grin. "Where's your sense of adventure?" Lily, who had been studying the path intently, finally spoke up. "I think it could be interesting. Let's go." With that, the decision was made. The four friends ventured down the overgrown path, their footsteps muffled by the thick underbrush. The air grew cooler, and the light dimmer as they pressed on, the sounds of the town fading behind them. After what felt like an eternity, the path opened up into a clearing. There, shrouded in shadows and neglect, stood an old playground. Rusted swings swayed gently in the breeze, their chains creaking with a haunting rhythm. The slide, once bright and shiny, was now dull and covered in patches of rust. Weeds and wildflowers grew unchecked, reclaiming the space that had once been filled with the laughter of children. "Whoa," Michael breathed, taking in the sight. "This place is like something out of a ghost story." Tim ran to the swings and gave one a push, watching as it moved back and forth. "Cool. It's like a time capsule." Emma shivered, feeling a sudden chill. "I don't know, guys. This place gives me the creeps." Lily wandered over to the merry-go-round, brushing away leaves and debris. "It's definitely eerie," she admitted, "but also kind of sad, like it's been forgotten." They spent the next few minutes exploring, their initial excitement giving way to a growing sense of unease. The playground seemed to echo with the remnants of the past, as if the spirits of the children who once played there were still lingering, watching. It was Emma who first heard it. A faint, distant giggle. She froze, her heart pounding. "Did you guys hear that?" The others stopped and listened. At first there was only silence, but then, ever so faintly, the sound came again. Childish laughter, carried on the wind. "Probably just the wind," Tim said, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. Michael frowned. "Maybe, but it sounded pretty real to me." As they stood there straining to hear, shadows seemed to dance at the edge of their vision. Shapes moved just out of sight, too quick to be anything solid. The air grew heavy, pressing down on them with an almost palpable sense of dread. "Maybe we should go," Emma suggested, her voice trembling. But before they could move, a figure appeared at the edge of the clearing. It was a girl, no older than 10, dressed in an old-fashioned white dress. Her hair was long and dark, her eyes wide and filled with a sorrowful intensity. "Hello," she said softly, her voice like a whisper on the breeze. "Do you want to play?" The friends stared at her, speechless, a mixture of fear and curiosity rooting them to the spot. The playground, once just a forgotten relic, had come to life in the most unsettling way imaginable. "Who are you?" Michael finally managed to ask, his voice barely audible. The girl tilted her head, a sad smile playing on her lips. "I'm Clara. I used to play here a long time ago." Emma took a step back, her unease growing. "We should really go. It's getting late." But Clara's gaze held them captive, her eyes pleading. "Please don't go. Stay and play with us. We're so lonely." As the last rays of sunlight disappeared, plunging the playground into twilight, the friends realized they were no longer alone. The shadows around them seemed to coalesce, taking on the shapes of other children, their eyes glowing faintly in the gathering darkness. And then, as if on cue, the swings began to move again, this time with a deliberate, unnatural rhythm. The creaking of the chains was almost deafening in the silence. In that moment, the friends knew they had stumbled upon something far more sinister than a forgotten playground. The spirits of the children who had once played there were still present, and they had no intention of letting the living leave so easily. "Run!" Michael shouted, breaking the spell. The friends turned and fled back down the overgrown path, the sound of ghostly laughter echoing behind them, a chilling reminder of the playground and its spectral inhabitants. The friends burst out of the overgrown path, hearts pounding and breaths ragged. The familiarity of their neighborhood greeted them, but the comfort it usually brought was overshadowed by the lingering terror of what they had just encountered. They paused, bent over, catching their breaths, and looking back towards the hidden path they had just escaped from. "Did that really?" Gemma asked, her voice shaking. "I don't know," Michael replied, his own voice unsteady. "But it felt real. Too real." Lily, ever the quiet observer, was the first to break the uneasy silence. "We need to figure out what's going on with that playground. It's like those children's spirits are trapped there." Tim shivered. "I don't want to go back. Not after whatever that was." "We won't," Michael assured him. "But we need to understand what we saw. Maybe we can find something in the town records or ask some of the older residents. Someone must know about that place." The group reluctantly agreed and made their way home, each lost in their thoughts about the mysterious girl and the eerie playground. The night brought little rest, as their dreams were haunted by ghostly laughter and the sad eyes of the girl in white. The next day, they gathered at Michael's house. His parents were at work, leaving them free to discuss their plans without interruption. Michael had already pulled out his father's old laptop and was searching through local history websites. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a faded black and white photo of a lively playground filled with children. "This was taken in the 1950s. It's the same playground." Emma leaned in, reading the accompanying article. "It says there was a terrible accident. A fire broke out, and several children were trapped. They didn't make it." Tim paled. "That must be who we saw, the spirits of those kids." Lily nodded. "Clara and her friends. They're still there, waiting for someone to play with them." "Why now, though?" Emma wondered. "Why did they appear to us?" Michael frowned. "Maybe they need help. Maybe they're stuck and can't move on." The friends decided their next step would be to talk to some of the older residents of Harrowville. There was one person who might know more than anyone else about the town's history, Mrs. Abernathy, the librarian. She had lived in Harrowville her entire life and was known for her extensive knowledge of local lore and history. They made their way to the library, a grand old building that had stood for over a century. The musty smell of aged paper and wood greeted them as they entered. Mrs. Abernathy sat behind the desk, her silver hair pulled into a neat bun, and a pair of spectacles perched on her nose. "Good morning, Mrs. Abernathy," Michael said politely. "We were hoping you could help us with something." The old woman looked up, her eyes sharp and inquisitive. "Of course, dears. What can I do for you?" Michael hesitated before explaining their encounter, leaving out the more supernatural elements, but emphasizing the discovery of the old playground and the article about the fire. Mrs. Abernathy's expression grew somber. "Ah, yes, the old playground behind the grove. I remember it well. Such a tragedy. What happened there?" "Can you tell us more about it?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with curiosity. Mrs. Abernathy nodded slowly. "It was a beautiful place once, filled with the laughter of children. But then, that fateful day came. A fire broke out, and the children were trapped. Some say it was an accident. Others whisper of more sinister causes. The playground was abandoned after that, left to decay and be forgotten." "Do you think the spirits of the children are still there?" Emma asked, unable to contain her curiosity. The old librarian's eyes narrowed. "There have been rumors, stories of people hearing laughter, seeing shadows, but no one has been brave enough to investigate thoroughly. It's said the children are waiting for someone to help them find peace." "How can we help them?" Michael asked, feeling a growing sense of responsibility. Mrs. Abernathy gazed distant. "If the spirits are truly trapped, they may need closure. You must find out what really happened and see if there's any unfinished business that needs addressing. It won't be easy, and it could be dangerous." The friends exchanged uneasy glances, but nodded in agreement. They had to uncover the truth, for the sake of the children who had been lost in the fire. As they left the library, the weight of their mission settled heavily on their shoulders. They would need courage, determination, and each other to face whatever lay ahead. The echoes of laughter they had heard were a call for help, and they couldn't ignore it. Returning to the playground wasn't an option yet, but they could start by gathering more information. They decided to visit the town archives the next day, hoping to uncover more about the fire and the children who had perished. Little did they know, their quest for answers would lead them deeper into the haunting mystery of the Phantom Playground and force them to confront the dark secrets that had been buried for decades. The next day, the friends gathered early, their resolve hardened by a restless night filled with eerie dreams. The town archives were located in a small, nondescript building near the town hall, a place few residents ever visited. The atmosphere inside was hushed, the only sounds the ticking of an old clock and the faint rustle of paper as the elderly archivist worked at his desk. They approached the archivist, Mr. Thompson, a man as old and dusty as the records he kept. Michael explained their interest in the playground fire, hoping the man would provide them access to the relevant documents. "Ah, yes," Mr. Thompson murmured, his voice dry as parchment. "The playground fire of 55. A tragic event indeed. Follow me." He led them to a dimly lit back room filled with shelves of old newspapers, photographs, and official records. After a few moments of searching, he pulled out a yellowed folder labeled Playground Fire, 1955, and handed it to them. "Take your time," he said. But be careful with the documents. They're quite fragile." The friends gathered around a small table, their excitement tempered by the gravity of the task. Michael opened the folder, revealing a collection of newspaper clippings, police reports, and handwritten accounts. The first newspaper article confirmed the basics. A fire had broken out in the playground, trapping several children. The cause of the fire was never determined, though some speculated faulty wiring in the nearby street lamp. As they sifted through the documents, they found a list of the children who had died in the fire. Clara Hudson was among them, her name underlined in red ink. Next to her name was a photograph of a smiling girl with long dark hair, wearing the same white dress they had seen her in. "That's her," Emma whispered, pointing to the picture. "That's the girl we saw." Tim shuddered. "So she really is a ghost." Lily's eyes scanned the police reports. "It says here that the fire spread unusually fast, almost as if something had accelerated it, but they never found any evidence of foul play." Michael frowned. Maybe there was more to this fire than just an accident. They continued reading, finding snippets of information that hinted at strange occurrences leading up to the fire. Several parents had reported their children acting strangely, talking about an invisible friend who wanted them to play in the playground at odd hours. "This is getting creepier by the minute," Tim muttered. "Do you think Clara had something to do with it?" "I don't know," Michael replied. "But it sounds like there was something, or someone, manipulating those kids." Just as they were about to close the folder, Lily spotted a small, folded piece of paper tucked in the back. Carefully, she unfolded it to reveal a letter written in a child's handwriting. "It's from Clara," she said, her voice tinged with surprise. "Listen to this. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm sorry I've been sneaking out to the playground. There's a girl here who wants to play with us. She says she's lonely and needs friends. She's nice, but sometimes she gets really angry if we don't do what she says. I'm scared of her, but I don't want to leave her alone. Love." The room fell silent as they absorbed the implications of Clara's letter. It seemed the mysterious girl wasn't just a victim. She might have been a part of whatever dark force haunted the playground. "We need to talk to Clara," Emma said, her voice steady. "If she's scared, she might be willing to help us understand what happened." "But how do we do that?" Tim asked. "We can't just summon her." "We go back to the playground," Michael said firmly. "And we ask her. She approached us once. Maybe she'll do it again." That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the friends found themselves back at the hidden path leading to the playground. Their steps were hesitant, but their determination unwavering. The air grew colder as they approached, the shadows lengthening and deepening. The playground looked even more forlorn in the twilight, the swings swaying gently as if moved by unseen hands. The silence was thick, broken only by the occasional creak of rusty metal. "Clara," Michael called out, his voice trembling slightly. "We want to talk to you. Please come out." For a moment there was nothing but the whisper of the wind through the trees. Then slowly, the same girl they had seen before appeared at the edge of the clearing. Her eyes were wide and sad, her white dress glowing faintly in the dim light. "Why have you come back?" she asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. "We want to help you," Emma said, stepping forward. "We know what happened here, and we think you're scared. Can you tell us what really happened?" Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't mean for it to happen. She said she wanted to play, but then she got angry. She made the fire start. I couldn't stop her. Who is she? Lily asked gently. Who made the fire start? Clara looked around nervously, as if expecting to see someone lurking in the shadows. She's the one who came before us, the first child to play here. She never left, and now she wants everyone to stay with her. The friends exchanged uneasy glances. It seemed they were dealing with a malevolent spirit, one that had been trapped in the playground for much longer than they had realized. Can you help us stop her? Michael asked. Can you help us set you all free? Clara nodded slowly. I can try, but you have to be careful. She doesn't like it when people try to leave. As the night deepened and the air grew colder, the friends knew they had taken the first step in uncovering the truth. But the path ahead was fraught with danger, and they would need all their courage and wits to face the malevolent force that held the playground in its grip. They had to find a way to confront the first child and break the cycle of tragedy that had claimed so many lives. The fate of Clara and the other children depended on it. The night air was thick with tension as the friends stood in the eerie glow of the old playground, their breaths visible in the chill. Clara's words hung in the air, casting a shadow over their resolve. The spirit of the first child was a powerful force, one that had manipulated and trapped others for decades. How do we find her? Michael asked, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his insides. Clara's eyes flickered with apprehension. She'll come when you start to play. She loves games, but you have to be careful. She changes the rules. Tim looked around nervously. Play. Here. Now. We don't have a choice, Emma said firmly. We need to understand her if we're going to stop her. Clara stepped forward, her form flickering slightly. I'll be here. I'll help as much as I can. Michael nodded, then turned to his friends. Okay, let's start with something simple. How about hide and seek? The others reluctantly agreed, spreading out across the playground. Michael covered his eyes and began to count, his voice shaky. 1, 2, 3. As he counted, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper. Clara moved silently, her eyes wide with anticipation and fear. 20. Ready or not, here I come, Michael called, uncovering his eyes. The playground was eerily silent. He moved cautiously, his footsteps echoing in the stillness. The swing set creaked as he passed, and he thought he saw a shadow dart behind the slide. He approached slowly, peering around the rusted metal. Emma was crouched there, her face pale but determined. Found you, Michael said, offering her a hand. Yeah, she whispered, glancing around. This place feels wrong. They continued their search, finding Tim hiding behind the merry-go-round and Lily concealed in the tall grass near the edge of the clearing. As they regrouped, a soft, mocking laughter echoed through the playground. She's here, Clara whispered, her eyes wide with fear. She's watching. Let's play another game, Tim suggested, trying to keep his voice steady. How about tag? Michael nodded. Okay, I'll be it. The friends scattered, their movements tentative. Michael started after Tim, his heart racing. He could feel the oppressive presence growing stronger, as if the spirit was closing in on them. Just as Michael was about to tag Tim, the world shifted. The playground seemed to warp and twist, the equipment bending at unnatural angles. The ground beneath their feet felt unstable, as if they were running on a surface that was constantly shifting. She's changing the rules, Lily shouted, her voice tinged with panic. Michael stumbled, reaching out for support. His hand brushed against something cold and solid. He turned to see a girl standing there, her eyes filled with a malevolent gleam. She looked similar to Clara, but there was something darker, more sinister about her. "Why are you here?" the girl asked, her voice a harsh whisper. "You're not supposed to be here." "We want to help," Michael said, his voice trembling. "We want to set you free." The girl's expression twisted into a sneer. "Help? No one can help us. We're here forever." Clara appeared beside Michael, her form flickering with fear. "Please let them go. They didn't do anything wrong." The malevolent spirit's eyes narrowed. "You think you can change anything? You're just a ghost. You have no power here." A gust of wind blew through the playground, carrying with it a cacophony of whispers and laughter. The swings moved wildly, the merry-go-round spun faster and faster, and the slide seemed to stretch into the darkness. "We need to stop playing," Emma shouted, struggling to stay on her feet. "It's making her stronger." Michael looked at Clara. "What do we do?" Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know. She's too strong." The malevolent spirit laughed, a sound that chilled them to the bone. "You can't stop me. This is my playground, and you're all going to stay here with me." Michael felt a surge of desperation. "We need to find a way to break her hold. Maybe if we confront what happened, we can weaken her." Lily's eyes lit up with realization. "The fire. We need to show her the truth about the fire." "But how?" Tim asked, panic rising in his voice. "We have to recreate it," Michael said, his mind racing. "We need to make her see what really happened." Clara nodded. "I can help. I remember that day. If we can make her relive it, maybe she'll understand and let go." The friends gathered, forming a circle around Clara. She closed her eyes, her form shimmering with a soft light. The air grew colder, and the shadows deepened as she concentrated. Slowly, the playground around them began to change. The rusted equipment faded away, replaced by shiny new swings and slides. The overgrown grass was replaced by neatly trimmed lawns, and the air was filled with the laughter of children. They were no longer in the present. They had been transported back to that fateful day in 1955. Clara's eyes snapped open. "This is it. This is the day of the fire." The friends watched as children ran and played, unaware of the impending disaster. Clara pointed to a group of kids near the merry-go-round. "That's her. That's the first child." The malevolent spirit, now a living girl, stood among the children, her eyes bright with mischief. She glanced at the nearby street lamp, a look of determination on her face. "We need to stop her," Michael said urgently. "We need to prevent the fire." They moved quickly, but the scenes seemed to resist their efforts, as if trying to keep them from changing the past. The girl reached the street lamp, her hand outstretched. "Stop!" Clara shouted, her voice echoing through the playground. The girl turned, her eyes wide with surprise. For a moment, everything froze. The air was thick with tension, and the friends held their breath, hoping against hope that they could change what had already happened. But the malevolent spirit, even as a child, was filled with rage. "You can't stop me," she hissed, her eyes glowing with an unnatural light. The street lamp sparked, and the fire began to spread rapidly. The children screamed and ran, but there was no escape. The scene dissolved into chaos, the heat of the flames licking at their skin. "Clara, we have to make her see," Michael shouted over the roar of the fire. "Show her what she's done." Clara reached out, her hand touching the spirit's arm. "Please, you have to stop this. You're hurting everyone." The malevolent spirit's eyes flickered with confusion and pain. For a brief moment, the flames died down, and the playground was silent. "I didn't mean to," the girl whispered, her voice filled with anguish. "It was just so lonely." Clara nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know, but it's time to let go. We all need to move on." The girl's form shimmered and began to fade, her expression softening. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. As she disappeared, the playground around them returned to its abandoned state. The swings were rusted, the grass overgrown, and the air was thick with the lingering sense of sorrow. The friends stood in silence, the weight of what they had just experienced settling over them. They had faced the malevolent spirit and helped her find peace, but the cost had been high. Clara appeared beside them, her form solid and real. "Thank you," she said softly. "You helped us all find peace." Michael nodded, his eyes filled with tears. "We couldn't have done it without you." The playground was still and silent, the spirits of the children finally at rest. The friends knew they had done something important, something that would change their lives forever. As they left the playground, the first rays of dawn breaking over the horizon, they felt a sense of closure. They had faced the darkness and come out stronger for it. The phantom playground would remain a memory, a testament to their courage and the power of friendship. And though the spirits were gone, the echoes of their laughter would remain, a reminder of the lives that had been lost and the peace that had finally been found. The days following their encounter with Clara and the malevolent spirit left the friends restless and haunted. Though the immediate threat seemed to have been addressed, an uneasy feeling lingered. The phantom playground and the spirits they had encountered weighed heavily on their minds. "Do you think it's really over?" Emma asked as they gathered at Michael's house one evening. The others were silent, each lost in their own thoughts. "I'm not sure," Michael admitted. "It felt like we did something important, but I can't shake the feeling that there's more to it." Lily nodded. "Clara mentioned the first child was the source of the malevolent force, but what if there are other spirits or energies that we didn't encounter?" Tim shivered. "You mean like ghosts that didn't show up when we were there?" "Exactly," Lily said. "We might have only scratched the surface." They decided to return to the playground one last time to see if there were any lingering presences or unfinished business that needed their attention. Armed with flashlights and a renewed sense of determination, they made their way back to the hidden path as the sun began to set. The playground was just as they remembered it, a desolate and eerie place, but this time there was a palpable sense of anticipation in the air. The friends moved cautiously, their eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. As they walked, the swings began to move on their own, the chains creaking with an unsettling rhythm. The merry-go-round spun slowly, as if guided by unseen hands. The friends exchanged nervous glances, knowing they were not alone. "Clara!" Michael called out, his voice echoing through the playground. "Is anyone here?" At first there was only silence. Then a faint, cold breeze swept through the playground, carrying with it the unmistakable sound of children's laughter. The friends tensed, their eyes darting around the darkening clearing. "Something's not right," Emma whispered, clutching her flashlight tightly. "It feels different this time." Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a boy, no older than 12, dressed in old-fashioned clothing. His eyes were hollow and sad, his form flickering in and out of focus. "Who are you?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. The boy looked at them, his expression filled with sorrow. "My name is Tommy. I was here when the fire happened. But I didn't die in the fire. I died trying to save the others." Michael stepped forward. "Tommy, can you tell us what's going on? We thought we helped Clara and the other children move on." Tommy nodded slowly. "You did. But there's something else here. Something older and darker. It's what caused the fire in the first place. It feeds on fear and pain." The friends felt a chill run down their spines. "How do we stop it?" Tim asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Tommy's gaze shifted to the center of the playground, where the merry-go-round spun slowly. "You have to confront it. It hides in the shadows, but it can't resist showing itself when it senses a challenge. You need to be brave." The friends nodded, steeling themselves for what lay ahead. They moved toward the merry-go-round, their footsteps echoing in the stillness. The air grew colder with each step, the sense of malevolence growing stronger. As they reached the merry-go-round, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. Shadows coalesced around them, forming into a dark, amorphous figure. It pulsed with a malevolent energy, its form shifting and writhing as if it were made of pure darkness. "Who dares to challenge me?" the entity hissed, its voice a chilling whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Michael stepped forward, his heart pounding. "We do. We know what you are, and we're not afraid of you." The entity laughed, a sound that sent shivers down their spines. "You think you can stop me? I'm older than this place, older than the memories of those who died here. I feed on fear and pain, and you have brought me plenty." Emma stepped forward, her voice steady. "We're not here to feed you. We're here to end you." The entity's form pulsed with anger. "You are brave, but bravery will not save you." Tommy appeared beside them, his presence a comforting light in the darkness. "You can do this," he said. "Together, you can defeat it." The friends joined hands, forming a circle around the merry-go-round. They closed their eyes, focusing on their shared determination and courage. The entity's form began to waver, its power flickering in the face of their unity. "Your time here is over," Michael said, his voice filled with resolve. "We banish you from this place." The entity let out a deafening screech, its form unraveling as the friends' combined strength pushed it back. The darkness began to dissipate, the air growing lighter and the malevolent energy fading away. Finally, with one last anguished cry, the entity vanished, leaving the playground in an eerie silence. The friends opened their eyes, breathing heavily, but filled with a sense of triumph. Tommy smiled, his form growing fainter. "You did it. The darkness is gone." "Thank you, Tommy," Lily said, her voice soft. "Will you be okay now?" Tommy nodded. "Yes, we can all rest now. Thank you for your bravery." With that, Tommy's form faded into the night, leaving the playground empty and still. The friends stood in silence, the weight of their experience settling over them. They had faced the unseen forces that haunted the playground and emerged victorious. As they left the clearing, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon, they felt a sense of closure and peace. The playground, once a place of sorrow and fear, had been cleansed of its dark presence. The spirits of the children were finally at rest, their laughter now a distant memory. The friends knew they had done something extraordinary, something that would bond them forever. They had faced the darkness and triumphed, proving that courage and friendship could overcome even the most malevolent of forces. And though the phantom playground was now just a memory, the echoes of their bravery would remain, a testament to the power of unity and the strength of the human spirit. Despite their victory over the malevolent spirit, the friends couldn't shake the feeling that their mission wasn't entirely complete. The playground had been cleansed of its dark presence, but something still felt unresolved. They had confronted the entity and helped the spirits of the children, but questions about the fire's true origins lingered in their minds. "We need to find out more about what really happened," Lily suggested as they gathered at Michael's house once again. "There has to be something in the town's history that we missed." Michael nodded in agreement. "Maybe we overlooked some details in the archives. We should go back and take another look." The following day, they returned to the town archives, where Mr. Thompson greeted them with a curious expression. "Back again, I see," he remarked. "Did you find what you were looking for?" "Sort of," Michael replied. "But we need to dig deeper. There's something we're missing." Mr. Thompson nodded and led them back to the room filled with old records. They resumed their search, carefully examining each document related to the playground and the fire. It was Lily who found a small, dusty box tucked away on a high shelf. "Look at this," she said, carefully bringing the box down and opening it. Inside were a collection of old photographs, letters, and journals. Among them was a diary belonging to a girl named Margaret Jenkins, dated 1955, the same year as the fire. "This might be what we need," Lily said, opening the diary to the first page. The diary chronicled Margaret's life in Harrowville, detailing her daily routines, friendships, and the events leading up to the tragic fire. As they read through the entries, a chilling picture began to emerge. March 15th, 1955. "There's a new girl at school. She's very strange and doesn't talk much. Some kids say she's always hanging around the playground, even after dark. Her name is Eliza. April 2nd, 1955. Eliza keeps trying to get us to play her weird games. She says she knows secret places and can show us things we've never seen. I don't trust her, but some of the other kids do. May 10th, 1955. Eliza is scaring me. She told me today that the playground is hers, and that bad things will happen if we don't listen to her. I don't know what to do. I told my parents, but they said she's just a troubled girl. June 1st, 1955. Eliza was really angry today. She said something bad is coming, and that it's our fault. I'm scared to go to the playground, but everyone else still goes. I wish someone would believe me. June 18th, 1955. The fire happened. It was horrible. Eliza was there and she looked so angry, but also sad. I don't understand. I think she had something to do with it, but no one believes me. They say it was an accident, but I know what I saw. The friends exchanged uneasy glances. Eliza's name had never come up in any of the other documents they had found. It seemed she had been at the center of the events leading up to the fire, but her role had been forgotten over the years. Eliza must be the key, Michael said. We need to find out more about her. Maybe she's the one who started the fire, but why? They continued reading Margaret's diary, hoping to find more clues. Near the end of the diary, there was an entry that stood out. July 5th, 1955. I keep having nightmares about the fire. I see Eliza, and she's crying. She says she didn't mean to do it, that something made her. There's something dark in the playground, something that's been there for a long time. It's like it took control of her. I don't know what to do. Something made her do it, Emma said, her voice trembling. That means there was another force at play, something older than Eliza. Michael nodded. We need to find out more about Eliza and whatever dark force was influencing her. Maybe there are other records or people who remember her. They decided to visit the oldest residents of Harrowville, hoping to find someone who remembered Eliza and the events leading up to the fire. Their first stop was Mrs. Abernathy, the librarian, who had always been a wellspring of knowledge about the town's history. Mrs. Abernathy's eyes widened when they mentioned Eliza. Eliza Cooper? I remember her well. She was a strange child, always lurking around the playground. Many people thought she was responsible for the fire, but no one could prove it. Her family moved away shortly after the incident. Do you know where they went? Michael asked eagerly. I believe they moved to a small town not far from here, Mrs. Abernathy replied. You might be able to find more information there. The friends thanked her and set off for the nearby town, determined to uncover the truth about Eliza. The drive was filled with a mix of anticipation and dread, each of them silently hoping they were on the right track. Upon arrival, they visited the local library and found a few records about the Cooper family. Eliza's parents had passed away years ago, but they discovered a surprising detail. Eliza had a younger sister, still living in the area. With the address in hand, they approached a modest house on the outskirts of town. A woman in her 60s answered the door, her eyes widening in surprise at the mention of her sister. My name is Margaret, she said, her voice trembling. Eliza was my sister. I haven't spoken about her in years. Can you tell us what happened? Michael asked gently. Margaret nodded, inviting them inside. She took a deep breath before beginning her story. Eliza was a sweet girl, but she changed after we moved to Harrowville. She started talking about the playground, about seeing things there. Dark things. My parents thought she was imagining it, but I knew she was scared. Do you know what caused the fire? Lily asked. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. Eliza told me there was something in the playground, something that took control of her. She said it made her start the fire, but she didn't want to. She tried to fight it, but it was too strong. Did she ever say what it was? Emma asked softly. Margaret shook her head. She only called it the darkness. After the fire, she was never the same. My parents moved us away to protect her, but she never recovered. She passed away a few years later. The friends listened, their hearts heavy with the weight of Margaret's story. They realized that Eliza had been another victim, manipulated by the same dark force they had encountered in the playground. We need to make sure that darkness is gone for good, Michael said determinedly. We owe it to Eliza and all the other children. Margaret smiled sadly. Thank you. I hope you can find a way to bring them peace. As they left Margaret's house, the friends felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had uncovered the truth about the forgotten tragedy and the role Eliza had played. Now they had to ensure that the darkness was truly banished from the playground, so that no other children would suffer the same fate. Returning to Harrowville, they prepared for one final confrontation with the lingering remnants of the malevolent force. The stakes were higher than ever. But they knew they had to face the darkness one last time to bring peace to the haunted playground and its lost spirits. Armed with the knowledge of Eliza's tragic story and the malevolent force that had controlled her, the friends returned to Harrowville with a sense of urgency. They knew they had to act quickly to ensure the darkness was banished for good. The summer air felt heavy with anticipation as they made their way back to the hidden path leading to the playground. As they approached, a cold wind swept through the trees, carrying with it faint whispers and echoes of past tragedies. The playground loomed ahead, its rusted swings and overgrown grass a stark reminder of the horrors that had unfolded there. "We need to be careful," Michael said, his voice steady but filled with resolve. "We don't know what we're dealing with." Emma nodded, her eyes scanning the shadows. "We need to find Clara and the others. They might know how to help us." The friends stepped into the playground, their flashlights casting long shadows as they moved cautiously. The air was thick with an oppressive energy, the malevolent presence making itself known. "Clara," Michael called out softly. "We're back. We need your help." For a moment there was only silence. Then slowly Clara's form appeared near the swings, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "You shouldn't have come back," she said, her voice trembling. "It's too dangerous." "We know," Lily said gently. "But we have to finish what we started. We found out about Eliza and the darkness that controlled her. We need to make sure it's really gone." Clara's eyes widened with recognition. "Eliza. She tried to warn us, but we didn't listen. The darkness is strong. It feeds on fear and pain." "Can you help us?" Emma asked, stepping closer. "We need to find a way to banish it for good." Clara nodded slowly. "I can try, but it won't be easy. The darkness has been here for a long time. It's bound to this place." As they spoke, the playground seemed to come alive with a malevolent energy. Shadows writhed and twisted, forming into dark, ghostly figures that moved toward them. The friends felt a chill run down their spines, the air growing colder with each passing moment. "We need to find the source," Michael said urgently. "Whatever is anchoring the darkness here." Clara pointed to the old rusted merry-go-round. "It's there. That's where it started." The friends moved cautiously toward the merry-go-round, the shadows closing in around them. The malevolent presence grew stronger, its whispers filling their minds with fear and doubt. They knew they had to stay strong, to resist the darkness's influence. As they reached the merry-go-round, a powerful gust of wind knocked them off their feet. The ground beneath them trembled, and the dark figures closed in, their hollow eyes filled with malice. "You cannot defeat me," the darkness hissed, its voice echoing through the playground. "I am eternal. I am fear." "We're not afraid of you," Michael shouted, struggling to his feet. "We know what you are, and we're here to end this." The friends formed a circle around the merry-go-round, their hands clasped tightly together. They focused on their shared determination, their bond of friendship, and the courage that had brought them this far. The darkness recoiled, its form wavering as the friends' unity grew stronger. "Clara, we need you," Emma called out. "Help us banish this darkness." Clara stepped forward, her form glowing with a soft light. She raised her hands, her voice steady and strong. "You have no power here. These children are not yours to torment." The dark figures screamed in rage, their forms dissolving into wisps of shadow. The ground beneath the merry-go-round cracked open, revealing a dark, swirling vortex. The malevolent presence was being drawn into it, its power weakening with each passing moment. "You cannot win!" the darkness shrieked, its voice filled with desperation. "I will return. Not if we have anything to say about it," Michael said firmly. "This ends now." With a final surge of strength, the friends focused their combined will on the vortex. The darkness let out a final, anguished cry as it was sucked into the void, its presence banished from the playground. The ground sealed itself, the air growing still and quiet. The oppressive energy lifted, replaced by a sense of peace and tranquility. The playground, once a place of sorrow and fear, was now calm and still. Clara's form flickered, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly. "You've given us peace." The friends smiled, their hearts light with the knowledge that they had succeeded. The spirits of the children were finally free, their laughter a distant, comforting memory. As they left the playground, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon, they felt a sense of closure and accomplishment. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, proving that courage and friendship could overcome even the most malevolent of forces. The phantom playground was now just a memory, a testament to their bravery and the strength of the human spirit. And though the echoes of the past would remain, the darkness had been banished, and the spirits of the children were finally at rest. The playground was serene and peaceful after their victory over the darkness, but the friends could not shake the feeling that their journey wasn't entirely complete. Despite the calm, a lingering tension filled the air, as if the past hadn't fully let go of the present. Back at Michael's house, they gathered to discuss their next steps. The victory felt hollow, and a nagging doubt gnawed at their minds. "Something still doesn't feel right," Lily said, her brows furrowed. "It's like we've missed something important." "I know what you mean," Emma agreed. "The darkness is gone, but there's a feeling that we haven't uncovered everything." "Do you think there's more to the story?" Tim asked, anxiety clear in his voice. Michael nodded. "There has to be. We need to go back one last time and make sure everything is truly resolved." That night they returned to the playground under the cover of darkness. The air was heavy with anticipation as they stepped into the clearing, the playground illuminated by the pale light of the moon. The sense of unease was palpable, the shadows seeming to shift and whisper around them. "We need to confront whatever is left," Michael said firmly. "If there's any lingering darkness, we have to deal with it now." As they moved toward the center of the playground, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The air grew colder, and a low, mournful wail echoed through the clearing. The friends huddled together, their breaths visible in the frigid air. Suddenly, the world around them seemed to blur and twist. The playground disappeared, replaced by a bright, sunny day. Children's laughter filled the air, and the friends found themselves standing in the same playground, but it was vibrant and alive. They had been transported back to the day of the fire. "Are we in the past?" Tim asked, his voice filled with wonder and fear. "It looks like it," Emma replied, her eyes wide. "We must be reliving the day of the fire." They watched as children ran and played, oblivious to the impending tragedy. Among them was Clara, laughing and playing with her friends. The friends felt a pang of sadness, knowing what was about to happen. "We need to find Eliza," Michael said urgently. "She's the key to all of this." They searched the playground, their eyes scanning the crowd of children. Finally, they spotted Eliza near the merry-go-round, her expression a mix of anger and fear. She was arguing with another child, her eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "That's her," Lily said, pointing. "We need to stop her before the fire starts." They rushed toward Eliza, but as they approached, the ground beneath them shifted, and they found themselves back in the present. The playground was once again desolate and overgrown, the children's laughter replaced by an eerie silence. "We've been pulled back," Michael said, frustration clear in his voice. "Something doesn't want us to change the past." "Maybe we're not supposed to change it," Emma suggested. "Maybe we're supposed to understand it." The ground trembled again, and they were pulled back into the past. This time they found themselves inside the old schoolhouse, where the children had been evacuated to during the fire. The air was thick with smoke, and the sounds of panicked voices filled the room. "We need to find out what happened here," Lily said, her voice muffled by the smoke. They moved through the chaos, searching for any clue that might explain the fire. In the corner of the room, they found Eliza, her face streaked with tears and soot. She was clutching a small charred doll, her eyes wide with terror. "It's not my fault," Eliza whispered, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean to." The friends approached her cautiously. "Eliza," Michael said gently, "we know you didn't mean to. Can you tell us what happened?" Eliza looked up at them, her eyes filled with desperation. "It was the darkness. It made me do it. I tried to stop it, but it was too strong." "We believe you," Emma said softly. "But we need to understand why it targeted you." Eliza's form flickered, and the scene shifted again. They were back in the present, standing in the middle of the playground. The ground was still trembling, the air thick with tension. "We're being shown something," Michael said. "The past is trying to tell us what really happened." As they stood there, the shadows around them began to move, forming into the dark, ghostly figure they had confronted before. The figure pulsed with a malevolent energy, its form shifting and writhing as if it were made of pure darkness. "You cannot change the past," the darkness hissed. "You are trapped in its grasp." "We're not here to change the past," Michael said firmly. "We're here to understand it." The darkness laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the playground. "Understanding will not save you. You are bound to this place just as I am." "Why are you here?" Lily demanded. "What do you want?" The darkness's form flickered, revealing glimpses of a young girl's face twisted with anger and pain. "I am here because of the pain and fear that have tainted this place for generations. I am bound to it, just as you are now." The friends exchanged uneasy glances. "We need to break this cycle," Emma said. "We need to find a way to release the darkness from this place." "But how?" Tim asked, his voice filled with desperation. "We've tried everything." Clara appeared beside them, her form glowing with a soft light. "You have to confront the source of the pain. You have to face the truth, no matter how difficult it is." The friends nodded, steeling themselves for what lay ahead. They knew they had to dig deeper, to uncover the hidden truths that had been buried for so long. The past and the present were intertwined, and only by understanding the true nature of the tragedy could they hope to bring peace to the playground. With Clara's guidance, they moved toward the center of the playground, where the merry-go-round stood. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the air grew colder as they approached. The shadows around them twisted and writhed, the malevolent presence growing stronger. As they reached the merry-go-round, they saw a vision of Eliza, standing alone and crying. The darkness surrounded her, its form shifting and pulsing with anger. "You have to let go," Michael said softly, reaching out to Eliza. "You don't have to be afraid anymore." Eliza looked up, her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how." Clara stepped forward, her form glowing brighter. "We'll help you," she said gently. "Together, we can break the cycle." The friends joined hands, forming a circle around Eliza and the darkness. They focused on their shared determination and the strength of their bond, their hearts filled with compassion and understanding. The darkness recoiled, its form wavering as the friends' unity grew stronger. "You cannot defeat me," it hissed. "I am eternal." "You are not eternal," Michael said firmly. "You are a manifestation of pain and fear, and we are here to release you." With a final surge of strength, the friends focused their combined will on the darkness. The malevolent presence let out a final, anguished cry as it began to dissolve, its power weakening in the face of their unity. Eliza's form shimmered, her eyes filled with relief and gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You've given me peace." As the darkness dissipated, the ground beneath them grew still, and the air lightened. The playground was calm and serene, the malevolent presence banished for good. Clara smiled, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You did it. You broke the cycle." The friends felt a sense of closure and accomplishment. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, bringing peace to the haunted playground and its lost spirits. As they left the playground, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon, they knew they had done something extraordinary. They had faced the past, understood its pain, and brought healing to a place that had been tainted by tragedy for so long. The phantom playground was now just a memory, a testament to their bravery and the strength of the human spirit. And though the echoes of the past would remain, the darkness had been banished, and the spirits of the children were finally at rest. Despite their victory and the newfound peace in the playground, the friends could not ignore a lingering sense of unfinished business. They had uncovered much about the playground's tragic past and faced the darkness head-on. But there was one final piece of the puzzle that remained elusive. The spirits of the children had been freed, but a shadow still lingered, suggesting one last game to be played. The friends gathered at Michael's house one last time. The summer sun was setting, casting long shadows that stretched across the town, echoing the darkness they had fought so hard to dispel. "Do you feel it too?" Michael asked, his voice heavy with the weight of their shared experiences. Emma nodded. "There's something we missed, something we need to do to truly set things right." Lily looked thoughtful. "Clara and the others are at peace, but the playground still feels haunted. Like there's one last thing we need to confront." Tim sighed. "Another game, then. The final game." They returned to the playground under the cover of darkness, the air thick with anticipation. The swings and merry-go-round were still, the playground eerily silent. It was as if the place was holding its breath, waiting for them to make the next move. "Clara," Michael called out softly. "We're here. What do we need to do?" Clara's form appeared, more solid than ever, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. "There's one last game," she said, her voice trembling. "The one we never finished." "What game?" Emma asked, stepping closer. Hide and seek, Clara replied. But this time, the stakes are different. You need to find the heart of the darkness and confront it once and for all. The friends exchanged uneasy glances but nodded. They knew this was the final challenge, the last step to fully banishing the malevolent force from the playground. "How do we start?" Michael asked, his voice steady despite the fear gnawing at his insides. Clara pointed to the old tree at the edge of the playground. "Count to 50, just like we used to. Then find me." Michael moved to the tree, closing his eyes and beginning to count. The others scattered, their footsteps muffled by the thick grass and overgrown weeds. The air grew colder with each passing second, the oppressive presence of the darkness making itself known. 48, 49, 50, Michael finished, opening his eyes. The playground was eerily silent, shadows dancing in the dim light. "Ready or not, here we come," he called out, the words echoing through the playground. The friends moved cautiously, their flashlights casting long beams of light that cut through the darkness. The swings swayed gently, the merry-go-round creaked, and the air was thick with anticipation. "Clara," Emma called out, her voice trembling. "Where are you?" A faint giggle echoed through the playground, leading them toward the old slide. They moved together, their steps synchronized as they approached the source of the sound. As they reached the slide, the ground beneath them began to tremble. The air grew colder, and a low, mournful wail filled the clearing. The friends stood their ground, knowing they were close to the heart of the darkness. "Here," Clara's voice whispered, guiding them toward the center of the playground. They followed her voice, their flashlights illuminating the path. As they reached the merry-go-round, they saw Clara standing beside it, her eyes filled with determination. "It's here," she said softly. "The heart of the darkness. You need to confront it." The ground beneath the merry-go-round cracked open, revealing a dark, swirling vortex. The malevolent presence grew stronger, its whispers filling their minds with fear and doubt. "You cannot defeat me," the darkness hissed. "I am eternal. I am fear." "We're not afraid of you," Michael said firmly. "We know what you are, and we're here to end this." The friends joined hands, forming a circle around the merry-go-round. They focused on their shared determination, their bond of friendship, and the courage that had brought them this far. The darkness recoiled, its form wavering as the friends' unity grew stronger. "You are not eternal," Emma said, her voice filled with resolve. "You are a manifestation of pain and fear, and we are here to release you." With a final surge of strength, the friends focused their combined will on the vortex. The darkness let out a final, anguished cry as it was sucked into the void, its presence banished from the playground. The ground sealed itself, the air growing still and quiet. The oppressive energy lifted, replaced by a sense of peace and tranquility. The playground, once a place of sorrow and fear, was now calm and still. Clara's form flickered, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly. "You've given us peace." The friends smiled, their hearts light with the knowledge that they had succeeded. The spirits of the children were finally free, their laughter now a distant, comforting memory. As they left the playground, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon, they felt a sense of closure and accomplishment. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, proving that courage and friendship could overcome even the most malevolent of forces. The phantom playground was now just a memory, a testament to their bravery and the strength of the human spirit. And though the echoes of the past would remain, the darkness had been banished, and the spirits of the children were finally at rest.